The principal of Navusu Agriculture Technical Institute, Mr. Uraya Wembuta, the Dean of the College of Agriculture at Fiji National University, Professor Edji, Dr. Puasa Tabutri from USP. I hope I got your surname right. Apologies for that. Senior staff from Ministry of Agriculture, professors and academics from Fiji National University, the senior staff from NATI, our students, representatives from various other organizations outside NATI, ladies and gentlemen, Bulabina Katiol. It's always a pleasure to come to an academic institution. It reminds me of my good old days. Maybe very soon I'll have to get back to that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all gathered here today to have a discourse on this issue of desertification, degradation of good land in Fiji and around the globe. This is an issue which is affecting nearly every country due to climate change. And countries which rely on agriculture are particularly affected to a great extent because of this negative effect of climate change. Now, we may not see a major issue of desertification now, but all these things get to a stage where it is a critical issue progressively over time. So sometimes when we don't see it as a major issue at that particular point in time, we tend to not do anything. Now, the United Nations have identified dedicated days to get people to at least dedicate that day for a mass movement, for a national discourse, national inquiry, or establish plans to undertake an inquiry, particularly set up at institutions such as universities and research institutions, agenda for problem-solving research. So these dedicated days, basically, sometimes we say that, just recently there was a day, Environment Day, and someone said to me, Minister, every day should be Environment Day. I said, absolutely, absolutely. Every day should be Environment Day. Every day we should be conscious about our conduct on the environment, our behavior on the environment, and everyone should be thinking about environment every moment. We must be conscious about what we do when we walk outside our home, work on the farm, outside our workplace, be it households, farmers, business sector, those who are extracting resources from our nature, from our biodiversity, whether it's gravel extraction, whether it's gathering of timber or non-timber products from the forest. So every day we should be conscious of our conduct and its implication on the environment, every day. But the dedicated day is there to look at the stats. If the stats are not there, then develop an agenda to collect the stats on that particular issue, whether it's environment, whether it's biodiversity, whether it's desertification, degradation, whatever the dedicated day is. Undertake a discourse, jog people's memory that, hey, this is an issue that we need to deal with. Have a mass movement, involve people, involve children in particular, students in particular, Why? Because they are the future. They will be the leaders. They will be in the driver's seat. And us, we need to be conscious of the decisions because these decisions will affect them and the future generations. That is why globally now, organizers are required to involve the young, the students, the children, because we will be making policies or decisions about them. So this dedicated day on that particular theme, and here we are about this dedicated day, which is tomorrow, on desertification and land degradation, is to say where we are, take a stock, and where are we going with regard to logging activities, with regard to agriculture activities, with regard to mining activities. I mean, those who have traveled widely in Vanuatu, if you go towards Boa, as you passed Dreketi, on your left, I'm talking about going from Lambasa town, if you're coming from Nambuwalu, then it will be on your right. You will see the soil pile there, which is the residue from bauxite that has been mined. Now, when I was traveling a few days ago too, last week, yesterday I didn't travel towards Boa. Last week when I was there, and I said, so what's going to happen here? Can anything grow on this place? You see, that's a glaring example of desertification and degradation. What was the plans for once you allow that level of extraction? So what was the plan for them to do or things to do to ensure that we get back to a green plain? At the moment it is all red, just bare soil, red soil, piled after bauxite was extracted. So ladies and gentlemen, if you are thinking that you look around Navuso, you see it totally green, there's no issue about desertification, land degradation, then you are mistaken. You're mistaken. There is a rush for growth and development. And this rush is not only in Fiji, but a lot of countries. They are running to achieve high growth rates. And it is because people want better facilities. People want better life. People want better services. And this is only possible if the economy grows. When the economy grows, there's more revenue for the government. When the government gets more revenue, then government will then provide the basic public goods. Better road facility, water, electricity, education, health, security. These are all public goods that individuals cannot provide. So the public comes in and provides because of indivisibility in nature, and there are other reasons why goods are classified as public good, and therefore government comes in to provide. But in this rush to get high growth rates, there are sometimes we fail to see the long-term impact on approval of those investments. As Environment Minister, nearly every week I get complaints from investors who have submitted for environmental impact assessment for their particular project, saying that taking too long, the requirements are very high, why am I required to do an environmental impact assessment? Why can't it be exempted? I'm creating so many jobs. COVID-19 has just taken place, there's so many people who are looking for jobs. I want to invest, I'm going to create, 200, 300 jobs, etc. They're putting pressure on us. But we are saying that for the short-term gain, we don't want to compromise our environment, our biodiversity, which will affect the quality of life of the future generation. And that is why we are very particular in requiring that any investment which interacts with our nature, our biodiversity, must undertake an environmental impact assessment. We are also now require the consultants, of course, they need to be registered with the Ministry of Environment, all those consultants who can be hired to undertake EIA. But we are now going a step further to allocate the consultants on subject area wise. There will be EIA which requires hydrology. There will be EIA which requires more flora kind of biological studies, etc. Geotech study. So different environment impact assessment. We are developing a pool of expertise who can only be hired to undertake that particular environmental impact assessment. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier on, the idea of a dedicated day is to generate discussion, discourse, and ask critical questions about what we are doing, not only as an individual, but to interrogate others who are constantly trying to take shortcuts to deal with our biological resources. There are certain endemic species that we have in this country. If we extinct them, then that's it, they're gone. I recall a case of an investor was extracting from River, and we said that during these months you can't do extraction, gravel extraction, sand extraction, because that's the breeding ground for hammerhead shark. So he said, what are we, you want to protect hammerhead shark. Sharks are a danger to those who would be, entering River. But the thing is this, if that is the case, a number of you would have watched this, these natural videos about nature in African regions, Savannah and a few other places. That means there's no need to have tigers and lions and hyenas. They're the most notorious. Hyena I categorize as the most notorious animal. Every animal species, every plant species have a role to play in this world. And if you want to exist and have a quality of life, then we need to coexist. So what we said to them is that, look, there is this certain period, the spawning period, that we can't disturb them. And we are giving you some other area to extract. And you knew from the last so many years that period you cannot extract. You should have made an alternative plan to utilize your labor. I said, no, I'll have to send people home during this month, spawning months. So it is in this regard that Fiji is a signatory to a number of international conventions, because individually, if the countries will say that I'm not going to sign, these are global issues. If one country doesn't sign and it continues to emit pollution or undertake degradation or desertification of their land, unsustainable practices of agriculture or forestry, etc., then the entire global world will be affected. Just yesterday, day before yesterday, I was at Nambumbu village, which is about 3 hours drive from Lambasa town. The community there never thought that the sea, which is a source of their livelihood, intertwined with their lifestyle, culture, and tradition, will become a threat to them. Some 60, 70 years ago, they never dreamt that they will have to do something to block the sea. It is because of climate change at a global level. And it's a global issue. And that is why we need to deal with globally. We can have local solutions, but the issue, climate change, sea level rise, is determined by global action, global conduct. We are subject to a global environment debt. We are a small player in the global market. So Fiji is a signatory to a number of conventions that deal with these issues. The issue of Fiji with regard to desertification, Fiji is signatory to the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, Degradation and Drought that was ratified in August 1998. So Fiji's commitment to combating desertification, land degradation, and drought has led to this event in Fiji, where we are joined by about 198 countries holding this annual international event. As alluded to, the aim is to see what we can do to regenerate degraded lands. So for Fiji, we need to identify. We need to start with research of identifying these parcels of land which is degraded or has been subject to desertification. For example, the land in past Degradation, which has been due to extraction of bauxite. There are other places where we have done extensive extraction. Drought is quite predominant in Western Division, Tahua in particular, also Ba, Rekereki. But the most hard-hitting area is Tahua. So I'm not a geologist, my expertise is not that area, but why is Tahua so heavily subjected to drought? Well, the researchers should answer that. What is happening in Tahua, which is resulting in, even if it rains today and stops later in the evening, in 2 days' time, you'll see the place totally dry. Why is such heavy level of infiltration? So it is something that people need to ponder and think about. But the question is whether it is reversible. There are a number of environmental issues, environmental damage that is irreversible in nature, and we need to be mindful of. There were a time when countries argued, such as Simon Kuznets, a famous environmental economist, argued, and now it's called the Kuznets U-curve, that we can exploit our environment, exploit our natural resources, and grow. And then later on, the surplus created by the growth can be used to fix the loss of the environmental resources. But that particular theory has been shot down because there are certain damage that are irreversible in nature. So Simon Kuznets was very popular about 20 years ago when I was a student, first year student in the university, but it is no longer holding, given the actual evidence on the ground from a number of countries, which has really exploited the environment for their growth and development. So they are the ones who are putting a lot of money to see how they can reverse it, but that's gone. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this journey to protect our environment, protect our natural resources, to ensure that our actions are sustainable, do not lead to degradation, desertification, we should embrace modern technology, research, technology, to assist us in not only directly protecting our environment, but also looking at alternative ways of doing things which will avoid degradation and desertification of our environment. we should also utilize technology to enhance data collection and refresh our thinking and use it to convince policymakers that we need to come hard. We are policy making. We are at the policy making arena. We don't do research. Our days, it's the universities, it's the academia, it's the research scientists, it's the research institutions who are supposed to undertake research, publish it in the refereed ranked journals, but also publish a version which is palatable to us. I see some academics writing from their research feature articles in paper, which is an excellent thing to do. You are converting your research article in a form which is easily readable to general public and also reaches the policymakers. And I do hope that universities will continue to do that and feed the policymakers with this good latest recent research, cutting edge research. No country can grow and develop without continuously being supported by research, innovation, technological development. Otherwise, countries will remain stagnant. So in this journey to protect our environment, to build resilience of our environment, to expand the stock of our natural resources, we need to be guided by research, innovation, and technological adoption. And in this, the ministry is ready to work very closely with Fijian National University, our own national university, other institutions, intermediary institutions like NATI and other universities. We've got USP, we've got University of Fiji. It's very important that we utilize the limited stock of expertise we have. All these institutions are funded by the government, and it is important that academics in these universities, researchers, don't only look for additional grants, but come forward and do research and give it to us, because anyway we are funding them. So, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, action can be taken at all levels, from citizens, businesses, governments, non-government organizations, private partners, academia. Everyone can come on board and lend a helping hand to rise up from the drought together. I was mentioning to a few of my colleagues is that, I hardly see debates in universities. I hardly see public lectures, symposiums, regional conferences happening at universities. We need to see more of this, because unless until you interrogate ideas that they're developing, that the research that they're doing, you can't create a new body of knowledge. And the entire country's progress is dependent on every day, every week, every month, the academia creating new body of knowledge. And that body of knowledge can only be made public after it has been thoroughly interrogated, thoroughly debated by other scientists within and outside Fiji. And this can be done using a number of ways, symposiums, public lectures, debate, panel discussion, but I don't see this happening. So thank you. The Ministry of Agriculture is willing to work together with whatever resources we have, we would want to share with our partner institutions. And I look forward to that particular collaboration. And thank you very much for your presence today. And please make sure that you contribute in your own way of protecting desertification, or ensuring that the desertification doesn't take place, land degradation doesn't take place. Every small way will add up. Thank you, and wishing you all a very happy day against desertification, degradation, and drought. And it's my pleasure to officially open the 2022 Fiji World Day to combat desertification, degradation, and drought, and officially launch the Sustainable Landscape Approach site here in Nabuso Agriculture Technical College. Thank you, Naka.